Hi there. As promised, here is my day 2 reflection from my recent attendance at the Learning Technologies Conference and Exhibition 2013. First thing that I did on day 2 was I took a trip down to the exhibition. And the reason I took a trip to the exhibition was I wanted to track down an organisation called CertPoint, because one of the tools that they sell is called K-Tango, and it was mentioned during one of the mobile performance support sessions on day 1. Looked very, very good, so I went down there and I took a look. I met up with the vendor on the stand, and the first thing that I asked him was, does this tool allow me to use this device's native functionality? The keyboard, the calendar, the camera, the geolocation, email, etc., etc., the video record. Does it allow me to use those? Oh, yes, please sit down, I'll show you it. Fantastic, I thought. Sat down, 15 minutes of a sales pitch later, I asked him the question again, how do I use the device's native functionality? To which he replied, oh, this doesn't allow you to do that. Is it on the roadmap, I asked? No, he replied. He then said, rather bizarrely, why on earth would you want to use the device's native functionality, which just made me want to bang my head against the wall. And I think it really does show that most vendors out there just have not tapped into the fact that this device on its own is an incredible tool without you having to pile unnecessarily lots of extra stuff on top. If you can pile lots of extra stuff on top and use the fantastic functionality that comes with the device, please do so, because I'm fed up of seeing mobile authoring tools that simply allow you to push content to people. Let's start using the device's native functionality as well as perhaps pushing content onto people as well. So needless to say, I left the stand very shortly after that, and the guy is very, very aware of my feelings on the subject now. So once I'd been disappointed down on the exhibition, I went upstairs for a meeting about understanding learning with Charles Jennings and Hans de Zwart. It was an okay session, but I would sort of reiterate the points that I made on day 1 really. It was one session split into 1 hour with 2 speakers, about 25 minutes each, and it was incredibly rushed. Charles could very easily have absorbed the entire hour, and I think it would have had a far greater impact. Hans's session, once again, it felt, I don't know, it just felt very, very, very rushed. And it was really a case study as to what they'd done. Now, obviously, I recognise that case studies, people can make parallels to them, people can pick ideas out of them, but from a personal perspective, I am much more closely going to vet in the future which case study sessions I attend, because I just find that they're very, very rushed, and I want clear direction, I want some ideas, I want something tangible, and I just find in the case studies that I've been to, perhaps it's the case study, perhaps it's the speaker, it's very likely going to be me, but there's almost nothing tangible that I can get a hold of, or even if I think from a parallel perspective that I can really take away. So the learning for me attending that session was to be very, very brutal and perhaps filter out the attendance on case studies in the future, because again, for me, they just don't seem to have an impact. There's nothing much that I can do with them, which is a real shame. The mind map that I'm going to place below here, I'm going to place 2 mind maps below here. One of them will be the mind map from the session that I actually attended with Charles and Hans. The second mind map that I'm going to place underneath here will be a mind map that was actually on the very subject that Charles was talking about, that Matt Brits out in the US has actually been putting together. It's far more comprehensive, it's far more detailed, and it really is the subject that Charles was talking about during his 25 or 30 minutes or so. So I'm going to put 2 mind maps for this session. The one that I mind mapped, which is quite brief and scant to be honest, and then a much more rich, well thought through, better constructed mind map that a number of us have been collaborating on, with Mark Brits being the thought leader behind that. In the afternoon, I went to games-based learning, facilitated by Ben Betts. Fantastic session, and helped, I'm sure, by the fact that Ben had a full hour with us and he wasn't trying to cram something into 30 minutes. The key takeaway I'll take from it really is the first slide that he put up. He put up a full slide and he had lots of words scattered around the slide, ranging from reading a book to playing computer games and lots of other activities in between, such as doing Sudoku or having a telephone call, watching TV. And Ben just asked us to rearrange very roughly, very brutally, on a range of acceptable to unacceptable which of those activities our elders, and he was deliberately loose with that phrase, our elders would deem to be acceptable or unacceptable. And I think there was a general feeling that unacceptable would be the computer stuff and the acceptable would be the traditional stuff. But the group that I was in actually looked at that list, and with one exception on the list, we actually said everything on that list could be done on a computer. You can read a book on a computer, you can have a telephone call on a computer, you can play Sudoku on a computer, you can play a computer game on a computer. So we actually looked at the list, and with the exception of playing a sport, which you could do virtually, every one of those options could actually be considered at the computer, at the digital, at the technology end of things. So I don't think Ben's intention was to go that far with it, but it was a really good point for me that even what we consider to be traditional activities can now, not necessarily been replaced by, but can now be undertaken using technology as well. So it was a great session from Betts. He had a full hour with us. There was lots of discussion. There was lots of activities taking place. People were talking to each other. We were having conversations as opposed to being plonked down for 2 times 25 or 30 minute slots and being talked at. And for me, it was the best session of day 2. Best session of day 1 was with ETL Draw, and I just wonder whether there's a pattern that the longer that somebody gets to speak and interact with me, on both occasions they were an hour, the longer time that they have with us, the better session I, on a personal level, believe it to be. And I'd just be interested, I want to sort of pass this idea out to anybody watching this video, thank you for doing so by the way. If you attended Learning Technologies, if you attended a mix of one-to-one sessions of full hour speaker sessions, or you attended a mix of a couple of people split within the hour, which do you feel that you got more from? And I realise it's a really tenuous question because you may have got nothing from one and a heck of a lot from the other. But I'm just generally interested in finding out the longer sessions or the same duration sessions, but with one speaker. Did you get more from that session? Because I certainly know that on a personal level, I did, and I just wondered whether that's reciprocated by others as well. So that's the recap on day 2 of the technology conference. Like day 1, it had its highs, it had its lows. Message I would just pass out to any vendors that are out there is, if somebody asks you a very direct, very straightforward, black and white question, please do not lie to them to be able to get them to sit down and have a longer conversation with you to demo your product. Just be honest, tell them that it doesn't do that. You'll save your time, you'll save my time. If you've watched both of these videos, thank you ever so much for doing so. It helps me just to sort of consolidate my thoughts. It's a useful exercise for me. I hope it's been so for you. Thanks very much for watching.